5 minutes after 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in to AM Ocala Live. We've got a great interview. Ladies, I want you, please, I'm not talking down, I'm not being condescending, but please pay attention to this next author. He has written a book that is really a very important book for you because you're a lady. Bottom line is, that I know we're supposed to treat everybody as equals, but the truth is, you're equal as far as your abilities and what you should be allowed to do, but you're not as big as us guys, and well, we're attracted to you, and there are some men out there that just those two elements, the fact that they're attracted and the fact that they're bigger, they misuse that, and that's why there are so many horrible stories of men doing bad things to women out there. I just can't tell you how important this information is about how to protect yourself, not just in the event of somebody attacking you, but also to prevent anything from ever happening to you. So let's speak to somebody who knows. Listen to these credentials, by the way.
It's a great book.
The book is called The New Superpower for Women. Trust your intuition, predict dangerous situations, defend yourself from the unthinkable. The author is Steve Kardian. He's on the phone. He spent more than 30 years as a career law enforcement officer. I hear the applause in my head right now. He's an FBI defense tactics instructor, a partner at Defend University, which is a self-defense program created specifically for women. He holds a third-degree black belt and the title of professor in, how do you say this, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? Is that how you say that, Robin?
Yep.
He's a contributor to Dr. Phil, Fox and Friends, Inside Edition. We don't need to know any of that stuff.
No,
I'm already impressed.
Yeah.
I don't care if he's never been on any show before. Just the fact that he's written this book and has those other credentials. All right. Good morning, Steve. Thank you for being on our show this morning.
Good morning, Larry, and thank you for having me.
Where are you?
New York, Westchester County, New York.
Everybody, if you don't ever, I grew up there, and anybody who thinks they know New York from movies, they don't get it right, because it's not as bad as you think. But at the same time, it can be. All it takes is one bad guy. All it takes is one. And we live in a very rural area where there are lots of trails that go through the woods. And let me tell you something, bad things happen on those trails,
We have bad guys here, too.
Yeah, so
in fact, there's a manhunt going on for one.
The illusion that somehow the cities have a worse problem than the country areas, I don't know. It's just... It drives me nuts. Robin's daughter-in-law had a story. She was walking on one of those trails, and it's in the middle of nowhere, trust me. And this guy came up to her and said, "Would you mind if I jogged nude?" I said to her, "Don't ever go down that trail alone. Don't ever go down."
Yeah, she's a photographer and was taking pictures.
Yeah, she's out there taking pictures.
But she never did it again.
Steve, am I right about this? Women don't have any clue what goes on in a man's mind. They think they know, but they don't.
Well, it's sometimes difficult to read people and their intentions. Women, they want to be trusting. They want to, give to one another, and sometimes that's just not possible. There are people out there that they may look normal on the outside, but on the inside, they're not good people.
No, and you know that. And my dad was a police officer in New York City, and the one thing I remember he would always say, "Don't trust anybody." Just period. Don't trust anybody. Just don't.
I live by that.
Yeah. So how does the book help the ladies who read the book? Is it do you give like martial arts tips, that kind of thing?
No, well, the last frontier in safety is self-defense. So when everything else is broken down, the good gift of intuition, your decision-making may have been intentionally compromised or skewed. So in the book, at Defend University, we create instructors that bring back our program to their communities, whether it be in Europe, in Asia, or here in the United States. Now, we have an amazing reality-based program where we actually, put women in positions they'd find themselves in if they were being compromised in some way, shape, or form. Now, the most important thing leading up to that, self-defense is the last resort, is the safety aspects, the preventative aspects. If I had only an hour with a group of women, I would empower them with knowledge and information that will keep them safe, that they likely don't know about or have a misconception about.
Can you give us some examples of that?
First of all, I want to put them in touch with their gift of intuition. We all have it. My first experience was 17 years old. I'll just give you a brief. I was walking on a beach in Old Saybrook, Connecticut with my girlfriend, and we were walking 15 minutes away, and I had this overwhelming urge to turn back, and I didn't know why. I just had, and my girlfriend tried to convince me to keep going. I said, no, look at the waves in a Long Island Sound. They're like 6 inches tall. Let's go on the floats and float around. So I turned around, and as I turned around, about 100 feet, 200 feet from the beach house, I saw a lady jump out of a chair, scream, run over this pile of sand, screaming bloody murder. I jog over there, and I see 2 little feet sticking out of the sand. And, this little boy had buried himself head first.
Oh.
And, yeah, I began digging like crazy, finally got him, lifted him out. And his aunt took him, shook him, and he was not breathing. He was purple. His eyes were rolled back in his head, and his eyes looked like they were bleeding, but I now know it to be petechiae. And there were 20 adults standing around me now. I'm 17-year-old punk-haired jock, and I'm begging, does anybody know CPR? Does anybody know mouth-to-mouth? Does anybody know CPR? Yeah. Nobody would even answer me.
Wow.
So I had read about it. In a pamphlet, and this goes to a part of what's in the book on intuition and creating a blueprint. So I read this pamphlet vividly. I was really interested in it. It's something that caught my attention, and I began doing rescue breathing. And eventually he started breathing, and, they came. He started breathing after 2 minutes, still unconscious. Long story short, the trooper that was there, the ambulance captain was there, they came back to the condo and they said, the doctor said, they called me outside and they said, I want to shake your hand. The doctor said, if you hadn't done what you did when you did it, he's gone. And they shook my hand, and it made the Associated Press. And crazy interesting, but this week, it might be today, 40 years later, I was reunited with him on the beach that I saved him in. I found him by accident.
Wow.
But and to that point, that goes back, that's my first experience with the gift of intuition, and my first experience with creating a blueprint. By creating a blueprint, a plan of action, a woman can think about something that might go wrong in her life, think up a solution, and if you think about it vividly enough, in law enforcement we call it visualization, in the military they call it emergency conditioning, your brain actually creates a file as if you've lived it. So it's a very, very strong process, and one I've relied on in my 30 years, about 300 encounters, physical encounters at least, and I've not been majorly compromised. In other words, not received a major injury in any of them.
Oh my goodness! So I like the idea of visualizing. I wanted to ask you something about intuition, because if intuition tells Robin to close her drapes at night instead of keeping them open where somebody can look in her window, then then I would say that that might not be intuition. It might just be paranoia on my part, for example. But nevertheless, I think you should go with it. Whether it's intuition or paranoia, I think do whatever is probably safest.
Well, here's the thing, Larry, is that intuition is knowing something without knowing why. Now, I did an experiment. We did a social experiment on a college never before done in the country, again, with the investigative unit of Inside Edition. And I approached 8 young girls leaving the campus, and my job was to try and lure myself into their car. And long story short, every one of them in less than 30 seconds let me in their car and drove away.
No.
I was looking for this. Yes. Oh. I'm 21 out of 21 in the social experiments, and they all drove away, but I was picking only the soft targets, the girls that were texting, that were on their cell phone, that were looking at their notes, eating their lunch, daydreaming, just, oh my God, it's a beautiful day, I'm out of here. The hard targets that scanned the parking lot, maybe saw me, maybe did, I let them go because I knew I might have a hard time with them. Now, every one of those girls was interviewed by the producer, the investigative producer, and every one of them said, I knew I shouldn't, but, I knew that it wasn't the right thing, but. So men and women, statistically, supposedly, have the same ability with the gift of intuition. However, I believe women have it better because in every society, men are more violent than women. And women are more likely, by virtue of the way they've been brought up, to put it aside and disregard it.
I love what you just said. There was a funny story that Robin had from one of her friends, whose husband was in a small fender bender because the girl in the lane to the right had her GPS tell her to go to the left, And so she did without looking and hit the car. Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, now that's a person who just simply listens to instructions. And I think that sort of speaks to what you're talking about. Like a guy would say, no way, I'm not going to the left. It's crazy. But when, of course, we talk about a robot giving instructions, but do you think that's the same thing? Do you think we're so, what's it called, gullible?
Well, no, but if we don't rely on our senses, if we're not using our eyes and our ears and our perception to figure things out, and we leave it up to machines, we no longer need those as much as we did in the past. So it's a diminished skill. We are an electronic age. We are reliant upon, mobile devices, and we become a digital age. So our heads are buried in our phones. Our earbuds are on. We're taking away our auditory sense. We're giving away our visual sense. These are things that kept us safe since the dawn of time.
And that's really an acute observation on your part, because we broadcast from the mall. We see a lot of people come back and forth past our broadcast window, entering or exiting the mall, and they're doing just what you're saying. They're texting, they're looking down, they're not paying attention. They've got earbuds on, and those people, just walk right out into the parking lot, not being aware of that there could be bad guys out there.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Robin, if you want your intuition to work at its peak, you need to be employing awareness and or situational awareness. So if you're not paying attention, we use a color code. It's Lieutenant Jeff Cooper's colored code. And, for example, white, your heart rate would be normal. You'd be in your home, not worried about too much. You'd be completely relaxed. And that's what the predator's looking for. He's looking for the person in the white zone that's out in public. Now, you venture out into the public, you go into the yellow zone, heart rate normal. But you're aware, you're scanning. I tell women, you walk into a building, look around, look for the exits, look for anybody that doesn't look right or in play, look for a danger. And you walk out of a building, you do the same thing by just a mere scanning. And it's a very easy habit to get into. Just walk out and look around. Is there something that catches my eye? There's something that tells me there may be something wrong here.
Talk about groping on public transportation. It's in the book. It does not apply to Ocala, Florida a whole lot, but a lot of the people who live here do travel to cities like New York, where there's a subway or a bus where it might be very, very packed. What should a woman do in those circumstances?
Well, it's not just subjected to groping. I mean, you could have your wife or Robin could be on the line in the supermarket, and it's probably happened that the guy is standing so close to you, you can smell on his breath what he had for breakfast that morning.
Yeah.
And it's true, and it's a test. And in subway groping, it's the anonymity of being in that group of people. And, they target a lot of young girls because they're like, well, is that really? No, couldn't be. No, did he? Yeah, oh, my God. And by the time you realize it, he's out up the stairs or hiding behind a pillar. And, it's something that happens really, really quick.
And what could you do anyway? I mean, even if you knew it for a fact, you say, hey, you just groped me, I'm calling the police, he still runs away.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you know what?
You there, Steve? Steve, you're breaking up really bad. I can't hear you at all. There. Okay, you're back.
There he is.
You there?
Yeah.
Yeah. That type of guy is the kind of guy that you yell at him, don't touch me or stay. That's the kind of guy that's going to slither back from within where the people were. I mean, they're not the strongest of humans.
You say in your book that women should not fight like a man, and then you do give very images as to what a woman should do.
Yeah, it has to be reality based. You see, your say for example karate based self defense programs which are out there, they don't work. Men have a reptilian brain, so and if I know you don't believe it, but a guy punches a guy, he punches back. A guy kicks a guy, he kicks back. A guy bites a guy, he bites back. So conceivably, if a woman punches a man or kicks a man, she's going to be punched or kicked back doubly hard. So my partner went through this. He taught them martial art techniques, and they didn't work. So we began reversing that, teaching them how to fight like a woman or fight like a girl, using their bigger, stronger, more powerful weapons from the positions in which they were in. So I've investigated thousands of crimes against the women, and some of them are martial art females. Some of them are high-level martial art females in some very popular combat arts, and they were raped by their non-martial art acquaintances or boyfriends.
Oh. Gosh.
Yeah, very sad. Very sad.
how
So
you-
if you fight a man like a man, you're going to lose likely.
How young would you recommend that these lessons are taught to a girl?
Well, you know what? We go for just about everything. It's called the rule of 5. So 5 years before your daughter is exposed to alcohol and tobacco, you want to start age appropriately preparing her for that. 5 years before she may need to fight off some aggressive boyfriend, you need to start preparing her for that, again, age appropriately. And it goes with everything. It goes with the digital age. You know, we're giving our kids $800 cell phones, and, you know, we're not teaching them. We don't. You want to learn about your cell phone? Or your mobile device, you ask your kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they often have, you know, the younger kids, they often have one profile for mom and another profile or avatar for their friends.
You talk
It's
about
very scary.
creating a safe room in your house. I know I
Yes.
always look around for something like that. What if somebody breaks in? Where am I going to go? Or my daughter, you know?
Well, I've worked with people that have created elaborate safe rooms in walk-in closets with a shotgun, with, you know, pepper spray, with a portable, or I'm sorry, a throwaway cell phone where you pay $3 a month and, you know, it stays activated for 30 minutes, to all just using a safety bar in a bathroom. And even on the flimsiest door, it will slow down an attacker. It may not prevent him from breaking through a really, really thin door, but time is to your advantage. And if you have your cell phone with you, or you have a prepaid cell phone in your safe room, then you're at a great advantage. Now, what I suggest to families is, you know, you have a code. Code red. You hear somebody breaking in. You don't wait to see what it is. You know it's not a good thing. You run up to that room. You lock yourself in there. You have that prepaid cell phone. Hopefully, you vividly have pictured yourself grabbing your cell phone, and you take that with you and notify the police. And then you want to practice. You know, at 115 beats per minute, you lose your fine motor skills, and that's the ability to dial a phone. That's the ability to put your key into your car door or into your home door. And so, you know, program where you work and where you live, your police department, into your favorites. So
That's
and
a
then
really
practice
good
it.
idea. The book is so helpful. It's called The New Superpower for Women. Trust your intuition, predict dangerous situations, defend yourself from the unthinkable. Steve Kardian has credentials that definitely make him qualified to write this book and give this kind of advice. I wanted to ask you one thing, though, that perhaps separates Ocala, Florida from New York City, is that we are allowed to carry a concealed weapon here. And in fact, the pawn shops sell these handbags for women.
Yeah.
Where you put your hand inside, almost like one of those winter muff things, you know?
Yeah.
And the hand is inside.
Sure.
And there's a gun in there. So if somebody comes up to you, you don't have to go fussing for it. As you walk to your car, you've got your gun. You've got your hand on your gun.
You shoot through the purse.
Yeah. You shoot right through your purse.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, I love it. I mean, you got your stand your ground law, and I mean, even if somebody, what's different in Florida, like New York, if somebody tries to, you know, reach in your car and pull you out through the vent window, it's an assault. In Florida, it's actually a burglary, and you know. I suggest, you know, the more dangerous the weapon, the more training you need. So just don't pick up a gun and not get training and not get, you know, put through scenarios where your heart rate is up, and you'll know how you'll react under stress. So I don't care, like I tell women, I don't care if you carry pepper spray, a bazooka, or a Sherman tank. I want you to practice with it. And I'm with the U.S., formerly with the U.S. Marshals, and I carry a gun 24/7 everywhere I go.
You also talk about car escapes, and that was an interesting chapter to me.
I'm sorry, car escapes?
Yeah, if you're in an accident, your airbag goes off, your seatbelt is stuck, you need to have something in your car to cut your way out and break your window.
Yes, in my 30 years, you know, I was always a boss. I was always on the road. I was always, you know, out there with the troops. And, you know, I've seen a lot of cases where people have had fatalities where if they had a device like that, to be able to get out of the car, to be able to cut their seatbelt off, to be able to, you know, puncture their airbag, they likely would have survived. So sadly, it's a common occurrence, and you know, and it's the same thing with carrying a first aid kit and a fire extinguisher. How many times where people can't get out of the car, small fire turns into a big fire. So preparation is the key.
I want to separate your book from a lot of similar books. I've never. A lot of the tips are probably not unusual, but I think your approach, the blueprint, the whole blueprint thing, the mental preparation thing, that is something I don't think I've seen before. Ladies, get this book. It's called The New Superpower for Women. Guys, get this book for the women you love. I have one copy of it. I'd like to give it away. Call me if you want it. The rest of us have to go buy it. Let me, before we run out of time, get the websites for this. Steve, I found it on Amazon, by the way, so I know it's there. Where else could we go to get the book?
Oh, Barnes and Noble, Target. I mean, I've seen it. It's available everywhere. Simon & Schuster's an amazing publisher. They've got that book in Europe. They've got it they've got it everywhere, in Canada, Europe, the United States. And Defend University, if there's anybody that's interested in becoming an instructor, advocate, or martial arts, the everyday person, we can create that. We have an amazing program. So defenduniversity.com, The New Superpower for Women, Simon & Schuster, just Google that, and it'll direct you to a dozen sites that are selling the book right now. And it came out yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Really, 100% 5-star ratings already. So good for you. Not only congratulations, but thank you for what you're doing. Oh my gosh, you know what? Men are probably. Let's see. What percentage should I give it? 80% of us are probably good. I'm not even going to say 90. 80% are probably good. But those 20% that are not good, they're not good, and you need to be protecting yourself against them. Let me give this one away. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Good morning. This is Kathy. Yes, please. I have a daughter that does a lot of trail running out in Oregon and a girlfriend that's just starting real estate.
Good. You've got the book. It'll be waiting for you.
Thank you. Very interesting interview. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and she said real estate. Can you imagine taking a guy out to look at a house?
Oh, yeah, that's dangerous.
Oh, man.
That's dangerous.
Very.
You also talk about the different products. You mentioned nail polish and coasters. Like if you're out for a night of drinking with your friends and then you leave and you come back, you want to test your drink to see that nothing bad has been slipped in there.
You know what? I mentioned those in the book. They're not 100% certain. They don't test for everything, so don't let your good common sense replace something of a nature like that. So if you go to the bathroom, so does your drink. You go out on the dance floor, so does your drink. Never leave it behind. Don't trust the bartenders or the bouncers. That's not their job to watch your drink. So be careful, be safe, and rely on your common sense.
Exactly.
And I would say this, and I'm sure everybody knows this, so this is just me saying something that everybody knows, but I think the good-looking guy who's got the cute eyes, who's laughing, who's minding his manners, that could be the worst guy in the place.
Exactly.
He could be.
You never know what he looks like.
You never know. Steve Kardian, thank you for being on the air. Thank you for what you've done with your life, and thank you for writing this book. You probably will get letters. It just came out. You'll probably get letters how this book saved somebody's life. I just have a feeling.
No doubt.
Talking about intuition.
No doubt. Larry and Robin, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we will take a little break. We'll be right back. This is WOCA Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Wednesday, times of sun and clouds, there can be a thunderstorm popping up this